Here we go. We're here with Mario Fratto, runner for Congress in the 24th district, right, of New York. Am I correct with that?
That's right.
All right. And we're here with
Yes.
Cherie, and we're here with Roberta. Now, I'm going to quick ask you a couple questions because I know when I'm done, I'm done. And not for nothing, Mario. This is like to me, it's this is kind of like a tag team thing going on here. So I'm gonna get all my questions out, and then when I'm done, you're on your own. So if you go to like tag me back in, I'm just gonna walk away because I know
Okay.
better. Because I know better, right? Just like a WWE thing, right?
You know
Yeah.
what?
I
You
know
know what?
better.
Get caught in between Cherie
I'm
and
gonna
I.
I'm gonna walk away because it's with Cherie and Roberta. So it's a tag team thing, but you're on your own after this, all right?
All right.
Hey, I wanted to bring something up really quick that we talked about. I think it was over a week ago, and I thought it was really cool and it was funny. And that was when we talked about the 70s, 80s salesman pitch in 2022. And I'll tell you what, I laughed. I was laughing my rear end off, but it was funny because it was like, yeah, you got to look under the hood. You have to look, kick the tires and stuff like that.
Right.
It was just a funny conversation. But it's true though, because people that are looking for somebody that's running for something, they really can't just go off and just like, oh, I'm for this person without people really looking into all that stuff, looking what they're, what they're for, what they represent and what they're, what they really want to do, if that makes sense, Um,
Yeah, that's why I think it was so funny because they say usually the funniest things are rooted in the truth. And when we were comparing the politicians to the used car, I think it's perfect because you know they clean it all up. They try to hide all the imperfections and the past things, the damage, accidents, everything that it's been and clean up the car. And then they tell you, oh, it's never even been smoked in. Where they it's like what they do with the politicians now. They say, oh, the guy's never told a lie, he's never had a drink, he's never, and instead it's like, look, everybody, there are real people and you need to look at them for who they are and then decide, but you can't take it on face value, you know
yeah,
or you end up with a lemon.
it was like look under the hood. I was just laughing
Yeah,
with that
what do we say? Yeah,
conversation.
kick the tires.
You can't just go and just buy the car. Anyways,
No.
so I wanted to bring up real quick about your, and this has nothing to do with anything really, but I have heard of your father, who's a boxer, all right, and was he IBF champion?
NABF, so he was the North American Boxing Federation, so he was North American champion.
And this was back in the early 70s, correct?
Yeah, so 81. He started fighting in the mid late 70s, and then
Okay.
81. We just had a thing for him last year, the 40th anniversary from when he won his belt, and then he fought for the world title too, and he lost a close decision for that. And that was right in Rochester, so it was pretty cool because that was the first time they had a fight that big in Rochester.
So he was like the
Some of
pride
us
pride of New York.
remember it.
He was like the pride of
What's
New
that?
York.
Yeah,
Some
we called him.
remember it very well.
Yeah, I wasn't even born when the fight happened, so. But yeah, he was
Not
called
that
the
I'm
Pride of
aging
Geneva.
myself.
Yeah.
But he was like the pride of New York then, because everybody was like rooting.
Well, yeah, especially upstate because we didn't. He put things on the map back then because he was training out of Syracuse and then he was from Geneva and then he was fighting in Rochester. So from Syracuse to Rochester, he really was putting things on the map, and it was a lot tougher time to be a boxer. They only had a couple belts. Now they have four of these and the ABC, and there's so many now, but back then, it was US, North American, or world champion. So
like all the other alphabet organizations in
yeah,
government. Yeah. All right. So
yeah, exactly.
it's out of control. It's probably out of control.
Hmm.
Anyway, so one more thing that I just want to bring up real quick is that that me personally, I don't look at anybody that's like in government as leaders, even though that like the news is going to tell you our leaders, our leaders, our leaders. I look at people as our representatives, not our leaders. That's another thing that kind of gotten like thrown off in the whole thing with the media. That they're our representatives. They're not our leaders. They're not there to lead us. They're there to do what the people want. Because they're elected by the people. So that's an important thing that I wanted to bring up real quick. And that's so now what I'm going to say. Go ahead and say what you got to say because now that if you start getting in trouble and if you go to try to tap me in from outside the ring, I'm backing off.
Well,
Okay.
thank you guys for having me on. This is really cool. And you know, I know you, Charles and Cherie, and Roberta. I just found out you're from Geneva originally. So it's awesome to see all these connections of people that I've met and just that are being active. And I think this True Blue group is great. It's really important now more than ever to be pro police. And I'm trying to bring that out there. I spoke with you guys at that Brockport rally for Officer Piagentini and Jones, who were killed back in the 70s, you know, and they released that animal that murdered them and hosted him over there. And the fact that there wasn't more pushback on that was surprising to me. I mean, you guys did a great job, and I was really proud to be a part of that rally. But the fact that there were people on the other side of the street protesting us for protesting having a cop killer there, I think is the root of the problem right now. What we're looking at, that this is a culture war. It's a societal degeneration where if this was 20 or 30 years ago, even nobody would have been on the other side of that street, and everybody would have been joining us saying, why are we bringing this guy to a campus to have him here and pretend he's the victim when he murdered 2 police officers? So what I'm trying to do is fight for those old school values. And I think it's respect. It is law and order. It's about worrying about your community, your neighbors, keeping them safe. And that all goes back to those traditional values. And now we're being taught that the good guys are the bad guys and the bad guys are the good guys. And it's really important to hammer these points home, that the police are important. We do need them. And without them, you don't have a society. There is no civilization without law and order.
Correct. Totally agree. Totally agree with everything you just said. One of my first questions that I like to ask is, this year for Blue Line Ride and Rally and True Blue, one of our main goals is to raise funds for New York LEAP organization. And I don't know if you're familiar with that organization at all.
I've heard of it, but I haven't had any involvement with them.
It is strictly funded by private donations, but they are looking, it's a law enforcement officer who started it, and it's for the mental health of all first responders. For example, the first responders who had to deal with the Texas shooting this week are definitely going to need some sort of counseling themselves to help them process what they saw and what they had to deal with in their daily, you know, in their job. And officers tend to, where the average person has 3 to 4 major traumatic events in their lifetime, officers have 300 to 400 major events in their lifetime. So how would you go about if you had the opportunity to be in Congress? What would you do for funding for programs to help with the wellness of police officers and first responders?
Well, that's a great question. I think it's important for everybody. I mean, obviously, we're talking about police here, but even look at that shooting, you know, in Texas and the one you had in Buffalo, where these people are on the radar. They're people that you could see having problems. And I think there are mental health problems there that need to be diagnosed. But also in a situation like that, I also think it's important to point out that some people really are just evil. There are bad people, right? We can't always just say that it's mental health, it's mental health, it's mental health. Yes, there's people that know exactly what they're doing. They have nothing wrong with them. There's nothing you can diagnose, and they just want to do harm to others, or they want to, you know, they could be really smart people and be people in everyday society. We see that all the time. So I think there are genuinely just bad people out there too. But with police, with the trauma that they're going through, it's obvious to us. So I think there needs to be some sort of criteria to say, look, if you've been involved where you were stopping like a violent offense from taking place, or you were attacked in any way, or something where there's some sort of physical violence involved for an officer, they should have that option for that to be covered. And I think any community that is defunding their police. That money that we send to them federally for anything, whether it's for roads, whether it's for education, whatever money we were going to send federally to those communities that decided to defund their police, we should send that money to other police departments that are short-staffed, that need the resources, whether it's counseling, whether it's more guns, whether it's more safety equipment, whether it's just, increasing their budget wherever it need be. So that's a huge part of my platform. I think I said it in Brockport, that any community that votes to defund their police will not receive any federal funding in any capacity, because you've turned your back, and if you're not going to take care of your own problems, we're not going to send you more money to create more problems. So it needs to go to the right places. So I think if we can redirect some of that funding into programs for counseling and anything else, I think that'd be great, because a lot of people don't understand that. When you mention those numbers, they really jump out at you, and 300 to 400, where a couple people, 2-3 times something traumatic happens, and they're dealing with it at such a high scale that nobody, I don't care how tough you are, nobody comes out of that without any damage. You just can't. It's just everybody has a limit, but there has to be something done. So they deserve as much care and as much attention as we can give them, and it's obviously not enough.
So you're saying if the local politicians or the state votes to defund, then on the congressional end of it, you would fight to have their funds taken away from them.
Exactly. And it's they say the power of the purse, that's how we got the drinking age to 21. You guys probably can remember back then in the late 70s, early 80s, when they started switching that, and it was state by state, and they wanted it to be 21 everywhere. So they just said, okay, you can leave it at 18, but you get no federal highway funding. So everything's on your own now, but leave the drinking age at 18. So they said, well, we can't do that. So they use it when it's for something that they want, so that's what we want. So we need to send people, like Charles said, a representative, not a leader, somebody who represents their community. And they say, you know what, we don't want to defund the police. We want to give them more funding. So all these communities that are defunding the police, you get nothing from the federal government. So you make your choice, but then deal with your own problems.
Mhm.
And I think that would solve a lot of these problems.
Very good. Cherie, do you have a question, or you want me to?
I have like 30 seconds because I'm the one living the real life over here with all the kids running.
Oh, we just lost Mario.
Yes, we did. We lost him.
We've got multicolor.
You know what
Charles,
that
you're
is?
gonna have to jump back in because we just lost
Yeah, I
Mario.
know, we
Well,
lost
you know what
him.
that is? You know what that is? That's that really boring Indian movie, like back in Cheech and Chong. Remember that really? Remember they were talking about that, going, "No, I'm just watching this really boring Indian movie." It's not an Indian movie.
Oh,
All
there he
right,
is.
all right,
He's
There we
back.
go.
all right. I filled the gap. All right, I'm good. All right.
Yes, you did. Oh, we
Oh.
lost him again.
We lost him again.
He was just
No,
not
that is a great way to put pressure on, the states. I didn't realize that that's how they got the drinking age changed. Did you guys realize that's how they did it?
I didn't realize it, but I'll tell you what, it doesn't surprise me at all. The pressure and the manipulation
Yeah.
and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
But do you remember seeing this at the end of at 2:00 in the morning also? Remember they used to do the national anthem, and then they had like the
Can you guys hear me now?
We
Yeah,
can
but-
hear you, we just can't see you.
Oh, this camera is all screwed up. I don't know what is going on.
Can
I'm
you
gonna
get it on
take
your
this out.
phone? Can you get it
Yeah, I
on?
might. Give me a second here, okay?
all right,
Okay.
we're just watching this
Bear
really
with
boring.
me.
We're just watching this boring Indian movie.
You're watching movies?
on now.
Gotta mess around. Gotta mess around.
All right, give me 1 second.
Sure. Okay. One.
No, find her something to wear. So she's got a bathing suit cover up. Where is it?
All right. Just deal with us while we have technical difficulties. Stand
You
by.
can all listen to me like argue with my children to go do something else besides bother me.
Let's see.
See, if I had like an emergency broadcast system alert thing, I would put that on right now.
There you go. That would be perfect.
Yeah.
If
Should
you
for sure-
can't get a picture up either, we can always just do the audio. if
No,
you're
I
happy.
can. The camera's just so much worse, but I'll switch to this because now I don't have the I have an external camera, so I'm going to turn this one on.
Okay.
It should work. Does that
There-
work?
There
There
Yep,
you
we
go.
see
Yeah,
it.
see how much worse the video quality is though?
It's fine.
It's so much worse.
That's fine. That's fine.
Because it's the one from the computer
Mm.
instead of an external. But okay, you can hear me, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Cherie was going to say something. I thought.
Yeah, and then I started arguing with the kids and everything went crazy, and I'm just telling you. So go ahead, Roberta, with your next one, and then I'll come back in when I regroup.
Okay. Okay. So, Joe Biden just signed an executive order of policing. And one of the major parts of it is to basically take the surplus military equipment away from any surplus. The police officers can get it at basically, I think they have to pay something for it, but not very much. And that's how they are able to afford equipment, military equipment that they might need in case there's a situation like Buffalo or Texas.
Mhm.
But he, in that executive order, wants to take that funding away. So obviously, it's going to eventually come back to Congress and go through Congress. And so, what's your opinion on that?
Well, I mean, I think this is what we've been seeing more and more from the left, that they always want to spend money. They always want to spend money. You could think, if you look at some of the things that are in the budget, they're studying like bear DNA in Yellowstone, or like field mice in Idaho, or anything they could put federal money behind. But the second it comes down to the military, police, that's where the left tells us that those budgets are inflated and we need to cut, and it's ridiculous, and we need to fight back. And I think the problem is that Republicans especially cave too easily in Congress. So when there's negotiations to put the budgets through, or the Defense Authorization Act, or whatever it is, they cave and they don't hold the line, because you can't pass a lot of these bills without Republican support. But they get a little something they want, and then they let it go. And I think we need more people who are going to hold the line and say, no, if this funding isn't there, if you cut these things that we want, then we're not going to deal with you, and we'll let the whole government shut down before we don't give them this funding. And we don't really see that too much. We used to, but I think if you look at now, the members of Congress, even let's be honest, we just voted to send 53 billion to Ukraine between the 40 billion, and there was 13 something before that. How do you know what that could do for our police, for our military, for our roads, for our bridges? And they sent that money overseas, and we only had 57 people out of 435 in the entire Congress, in the House, that voted against that. And you think about that number, it's just a little more than 10%, 15%. 85% of them said, let's send that money overseas. And we have people right now sleeping on the streets. We have homeless veterans. We have people on drugs. We have an opiate crisis. We have police departments that are struggling, that don't even have enough equipment. And it's a slap in the face. So I think the best thing we can do is take back the House and hold Joe Biden's feet to the fire, because he talked about being this bipartisan guy. He talked about being able to unite the country, and it hasn't happened. And everyone's waiting for it, but I don't see it happening. I think we're more divided now than we've ever been. That's why, unfortunately, we need groups like the one we have here, like True Blue. I never thought in my lifetime that you would really need all these pro-police groups. I really didn't. I mean, I love it. I love being a part of this, but I never thought it would be an actual necessity, and it is now. Like, there just used to be these police associations, but nothing like that. I mean, 15, 20 years ago, Charles, was this type of stuff going on? Did people feel the need to say, I need to have a blue line and I need to back the blue, because there is a war on police right now. And it's incredible. And it's coming from the top down, right? It's coming from people like Biden. It started with Obama, when he was talking about how stupid the police were and the hands up, don't shoot stuff, and this whole narrative that there's these rogue police officers out there. And don't get me wrong, there's always going to be a couple bad apples, but they make you think it's the whole system. And it's when you start talking like that, you really put people in a position that they're going to remain divided, because even the police, when they're looking at it thinking they're hated going into a community, that they're coming in already on the defense thinking I'm the enemy here and that people view me as the problem, then that creates a hostile environment, because every interaction they have, they think the person's viewing them as a problem instead of viewing them as someone there to help.
Mhm.
And the media and the left pushes that narrative that the police are the problem.
I got to step in on this one. And I think that True Blue New York actually really let them know that we were all out there. All right. Back in 2020, they had no idea the support that was out there, and True Blue New York actually exploded. It really did. It exploded like within months. Matter of fact, June 6th will be like the 2-year anniversary of True Blue New York. But the thing is, it was very important to let them know that we were out there. And then when Roberta with the blue line, the riding rallies and stuff like that, and when we joined together and all that stuff, it was like unbelievable, because they had no idea that the support that they had out there, the thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And I think that I think they realized that, and I think it kind of helped them throughout the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I think
mean,
it's to jump in on that, and you'll find this probably, or you have already out campaigning, is that the defund the police groups are not the majority of people in America. The majority of people in America want law and order. They want police in their communities. They want a police funded. And when we started the ride and rallies, that's the first thing we would hear is like, oh, I'm so glad you did this so I could be here as a group, because they didn't want to speak out individually, but as a group. And that's where True Blue, same thing with Charles, they had an avenue where they didn't have to put themselves on the line individually, that we could become a group and we could support police officers that way. So, and I'm sure you've probably seen that it's just a small minority of people in America that want to defund the police.
right. And it's that vocal minority that, and the sad part is they end up getting what they want. Look, even here in my town, in Geneva, they did that. They made a police review board, accountability board, all this stuff. And it was all because of this small number of people that were screaming all the time. But the city didn't want that. Nobody wanted that. But there was a small group of people that wanted to do it, and they got their way. And we saw it with the protests in 2020, that a lot of the stuff that was going on, it was working. Once they started breaking windows, burning cars, ruining entire communities, all of a sudden, all these laws are getting passed in these police boards and accountability, and we got to do this and we got to do that, and it worked. So it's hard to get people. It's like when you have your kid and they throw something on the floor and you laugh. Well, they're going to throw it again then, because they're getting the reaction they wanted. So if they act like children and break things and stomp their feet and yell and scream, and we give them exactly what they want, then they're going to keep doing it. And we rewarded that behavior. And then you got people like Kamala Harris coming out and saying, oh, she thinks there should be more and they shouldn't let up, and that we should bail them out when they get arrested. And it's just a top down culture right now against the police. And I'll say this. You're right. 90% of people don't want the defunding. They're not against the police, because when you look at the numbers, if people were really against the police, even in the worst of the worst neighborhoods, that's where the police departments are the most short staffed, right? So I don't care if it's Compton or wherever it is in the country that's a bad area, it's hard to get officers that want to go there. If people wanted to, there's 2 officers on sometimes covering blocks and blocks. a couple people could go to war with the police. The police, if a community turned on the police, they don't have enough resources, but you don't see that happening. You don't see that happening. It's rogue people who are this criminal element, but the majority of even the bad areas, they're not at war with the police. You know, it's just they most people there really do wish there were more police.
Mm-hmm. Cherie?
Charles, you look like you wanted me to tag you in.
Charles, you should for sure tag in. I have to find a movie. I'm totally off my game.
She's still on mommy duty right now.
Yeah, my husband did not come home yet.
Oh my goodness.
Hold on.
What?
So Roberta tagged in Cherie. She's just sitting there. Mario's tagging me, and I'm sitting here. So go ahead,
Well, no,
Roberta and Mario,
Charles, I
just have
wanted
it.
to ask you.
Hey, go ahead.
I wanted to ask
Oh,
you
okay.
that. So
Well, I
I
have
mean,
more questions. I have some more questions if you want me to
But
continue.
Mario wanted to ask you something. What was that, Mario?
Oh, what?
no, yeah, I wanted to ask you, have you ever like thought about it from that perspective that in a lot of these communities, say there might be 10 officers that police a community that might have 5 or 10,000 people, whatever it is, in some of these neighborhoods where it's a very limited number, that if at any day there was 50 or 100 people there that said, oh, let's go get rid of all these police, right? There's guns all over the place. That could happen easily. You know, the police are just so outnumbered in some of these communities that they don't, even when you see the riots on the streets. So, I mean, there's thousands of people on the street and there might be 10 or 20 or 30 officers and they're trying to hold back a line. And if that crowd really wants to turn on the police are in trouble sometimes. They get trampled, they get overrun. And a lot of these bad communities, you don't really see that. You know, you don't see that there's a group of people coming after the police. You know,
Yeah.
I don't.
There's a group.
All right, no, anyways.
You want to say something?
Well, yeah, because he was asking me a question, wasn't he? Anyways.
Yeah.
So no, back in 2020, all the stuff was going on in the city of Rochester here with all the not for nothing, Antifa and all that stuff was going on, all that stuff. You would not believe the people on True Blue New York that wanted to go out there and help the cops. It was everywhere. It was everywhere. It was like, and it was really hard to try to control, to keep it, because of the fact that if I mean, we're talking a lot of people, if they kept posting stuff about going there and stuff, but the thing is that we had to try to keep it under control because there was that one fine line of how if we were like postings on there and people went down there, they could be an interruption for the police and make it harder for them. So there was like that very fine line. But I'll tell you what, there was a lot of people that just wanted to go out there and help them. But we kept all the posts that people kept posting out there. We kept it kind of limited because we didn't want to make their jobs harder is what happened. So,
Right.
so anyways, so
Didn't
right,
want to put them in jeopardy of having to get between the two.
That's a great counterpoint too, that there's actually more people that want to help the police than go after them. That there's you have hundreds or thousands of people that would show up to have the police back, and that's what it comes down to, that the majority of Americans view the police as good, view the police as necessary, and they respect them and they want to help them when they can. I saw a video the other day that citizens were helping a police officer that got shot. And they were all, trying to keep him alive and, care for him. And it's just great to see that, instead of running away, even everyday citizens, if they see a police officer hurt, I've seen where officers getting attacked by 2 or 3 guys and people right off the street jump in and help the cop. It's awesome. And there's more people out there like that than the other ones.
Yeah. One of the pushes is also to get rid of their protection, like their protective gear. They want them to have the camera, obviously, so they can blast, one little thing that they do wrong all over, but they're trying to get rid of the military, like vests that they have or the helmets. And that also puts the police officers in jeopardy. So, that's just.
Well, and I think that's one of the big takeaways, from what we've learned in these past 2 big shootings is they need this gear if there's any chance. And it's important. And we've seen, you know, that it does help them, because look what happened in Buffalo. I
Right.
mean, that guy was able to do so much damage because he managed to get his hands on that. And it's so sad, but our officers need that because their job is to protect us.
Well, and
Right.
that's a great point, and it's one of those things we were just talking about where that's something they want to cut budgets on and say, oh, well, we don't want them to wear the protective stuff and the vest and this and that, but we'll spend money on, you know, critical race theory funding or something that they want, or sex education program, or, you know, take the kids to a drag show at a library or something like that, where they'll pay for that with the community's money, with taxpayer money. But then if you tell them, well, can we get more, you know, bulletproof vests for the police officers? They say, well, we're spending too much there. You know, so it's really a political statement, and that's unfortunate that they're playing politics with police and first responders, you know, with their safety. But that's the point, that they want to take a stand and show, well, this is where I stand politically. Is I want to, if you tell somebody you want to cut funding for protective gear for police, then they know you're left wing. You know, that's your way to make that statement, and instead of just come out and say it.
I think of, I personally, for the police, would like a candidate, would like a congressperson who, even though he's in a different party, Joe Manchin, is like holding the line on his beliefs, even though it's going against his party. And that's what I would like to see in our Republican Congress people, is that they're not going to, like you were saying, they're not going to back down. We don't see a lot of backbone when they have to make a tough decision that a lot of the people are squawking about, like a lot of the talking heads are squawking about. They'll back down because they think, oh, you know, it's going to be on the news, my name, that I voted against it, blah, 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 blah. I mean, we saw that with some of the Congress people that we have in there now. So I want to know, are you going to sometimes have to like go against your own party just to make sure that police officers are protected and funded, and, you know, like or try to convince the other Republican Congress people, you know, hold the line, don't give in, you know, we really need to stand up and fight for this.
Yeah, and that's a huge reason of why I'm running and why I want to get elected, is because I feel like there are too many weak Republicans out there, and they don't fight. You don't hear from them. You don't see them out on the floor making fiery speeches. They're just kind of empty suits, the yes men. And I think this Ukraine vote really showed that, when I said that there was only 57, you know, and they were like all Republicans, I believe, that said no. But that's out of 208 in the House. So it's only a little more than a quarter of them that are actually going to take that vote, because they're worried about the media for them to say, oh, you don't care about the people over there. No, it's about, we care about the people here. That's $50 billion less that should be going to our country. You know, that money was brought to you by the taxpayers, and it's a slap in the face to just send it all over the world. If we weren't 30 trillion in debt, if we weren't having the worst inflation of our lifetime, if China wasn't eating our lunch right now, and this industrialized heading into being a superpower around the world, then yeah, maybe we have money to send overseas or help somebody, maybe, which I still don't think we should be doing. I mean, I'm of the thinking that we should stay out of the rest of the world's business unless it's a direct security threat to us. And people try to say, oh, well, we shouldn't have went, then you would have let Hitler run wild. No, I think that was a point where we realized, if Hitler takes all of Europe, that's going to be a massive superpower. And just morally, with what he was doing, once we found out, that was where Americans were united against that and said, let's stop this. But we're not really united for this. You know, 50% of Americans don't want us involved in Ukraine. If it rose to the level of a World War II event, then we'd get involved. But right now, this is a war between two countries that are fighting over some disputed territory. One wants a Russian part of the other one, of the Ukraine. And it's really not for us to be so involved as we are, you know, and especially with sending the money like that. You know, I just think it's a slap in the face to the people here, because people can't even pay to heat and cool their house right now. Fuel oil's tripled in price. I was talking to a guy, he fills our diesel tank for the trucks that we have, and he told me how people are paying $7.50 a gallon now for the fuel oil for their house. And he said that he had a guy's bill, it was $1,100 or $1,200, and he said it might last him a month. And he said that's more than his mortgage. You know, he can't make that payment. He can't survive on that. And that's what's happening to us as a country, that we can't even, you know, pay our bills, and we're sending other people money. It's shameful, really.
Cherie, were you just talking about something about people siphoning gas out, like right at gas stations, right down the road from you?
Actually, I was actually. So two different gas stations. One is people are going and they're filling up their gas station at a very busy, or filling up the gas station, a very busy station, and they're literally being carjacked right after they fill their tank. So, I mean, this is a huge problem. And then another gas station, they've chosen to follow you home from there and then siphoning the gas out of your vehicle from your driveway. I mean, how sad is that? Like, you go and you put gas in your vehicle because you're trying to do the right thing and you're trying to go to work and, you know, do what you got to do to provide for your family. You're spending a fortune on that and you're getting carjacked. Meanwhile, our police are being defunded and we don't have enough law enforcement officers, because who wants to do that after 2 years of this? Rightfully so. I mean, it's just the whole thing is just creating more problems for everyone. And the bottom line is, if you're not safe in your community, nothing else really matters. So as we continue to go through this, I mean, my goodness, you're stopping for gas and you're being carjacked at gunpoint.
Right.
I mean, it's at gunpoint. I mean, or you're being followed home. What's next?
I mean, I saw where they drilled a hole. Did you guys see that story? Someone drilled a hole in somebody's gas tank underneath and just took it right out that way. They brought it to the mechanic. They said, I had filled my tank. I'm in the driveway. The car won't start. They had to get it towed. And he said, oh, here's your problem. There's a hole drilled in the bottom in the gas tank. And someone came at night and took it right out.
Yep.
I mean, and that's going on. You know, this is like, sounds like it's third world, like one of these apocalypse movies where people are siphoning gas and stealing, you know, and that's what I tell people. Good luck with all these electric cars, because the second that happens, you're going to want a 95 Ford pickup truck that doesn't have all these computer chips and a hybrid and electric battery, and you're just going to be running on fuel. And that's going to be the only way you're going to be getting around, because there's going to be nowhere to plug in and charge. You know,
Can you imagine the road patrol if we all went to electric cars?
Oh my God. Yeah.
They'd have to become mechanics with their little,
You know, I wanted to bring this up because I've been talking to people like the last couple of days about this, that with the whole electric car. Now we're getting way off subject, so we're going to get back on subject of law enforcement after this. But I was telling people that, you know, you have the they're trying to go all electric cars. If anybody remembers, like, what was it, 12, 13 years ago when the whole East Coast shut right down? It was like 12 or 13 hours or something like that. But then they want to sit there and talk about, oh, our infrastructure is in danger from Russia. All right, because they could attack our national, our grid system. So what's going to happen? How can they sit there and say that we have to be careful of Russia attacking our grid system, which is going to shut down our power supply, our electric, and then you're having cars? What's going to happen? Who's going to be able to drive around? Our country will just like stop. But if there's still gas cars, people are still going to be able to function, and people don't get that through their minds. Anyways, I just want to throw that out there.
it'll be like, what was that Mel Gibson movie?
What?
How about like Escape from New York? But go ahead.
Yeah, and Escape from LA.
Yeah. Go ahead. How would you try to bring the awareness of the illegal fentanyl coming across the border, which is a big problem for our police officers on the street? I mean, where I live, they're picking people up all the time on 390, you know, like every week there's a blog in the new online that says, oh, we got so and so, they had drugs, blah 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 blah. So the border crisis is affecting our law enforcement, obviously, because it's coming up through from the southern border in through the state. So what is your feeling on that?
Well, and a big part of my platform that I've been running on is that China is our biggest threat, foreign threat. And I think we see that with this fentanyl situation, that a lot of the main ingredients that they're using to make the fentanyl that's coming in are from China. So China's getting into Mexico, right? And then they're getting into Mexico, and then it's coming across the border. So it's twofold, it's a border problem, but it's also a China problem, because they're the root cause of this. And it's really dangerous, because what somebody made a great point the other day. I wish I could give them credit for it, because it was really good. They said that, hold on, don't say that this is a drug problem. Don't say that this is just don't call these overdoses, because these are poisonings that a lot of people are just going to get normal medicine that they think that they want. They said there's kids, they're in college, they want to take Ritalin or Adderall, whatever. And maybe they don't have a prescription for it, and they get the little capsules, and really there's fentanyl in there or something. So the kid was just trying to take something they thought was safe, that they're trying to study, a couple more hours or whatever it is, concentrate a little better. They're not planning to do a hard drug, and then all of a sudden they're dead. So if we look at it from that perspective, that you're poisoning people, then that in itself is something it's a crime that's being committed against us. So they're making it to try to downplay this. They're making it like it's only, well, people were using drugs, they got some bad stuff. No, there's a lot of people that are just trying to use stuff that's not supposed to be hard drugs. And I think we need to look, the border needs to be locked down. The wall should have been built, because over and over we see these stories where it's drugs, it's illegal aliens coming in who are committing crimes that, they got mad at Trump when he was talking about it, but it's true. I remember there was a big blow up on the O'Reilly factor back in the day with Geraldo and Bill O'Reilly. And the whole thing was, there was this illegal immigrant who had gotten like 3 or 4 DWIs. This was like his 3rd or 4th one. And he hits a car head on with a mother, a father, and like a 4-year-old girl. And I don't know if they were all killed, but for sure the little girl was killed. And Geraldo was upset, saying, look, well, this isn't a legal alien problem. This is a drinking and driving problem. And O'Reilly said, no, he didn't have a right to be here. He didn't have a right to be here. And he kept saying it. And that's the point. It's different. It's different if it's Joe Schmo and he's American and he goes out and drinks and drives. Fine. We got to deal with that problem. And it's not that it's any better if somebody gets killed. But the problem is, if somebody wasn't even supposed to be in this country and we allowed them in, and then they kill one of us, that's worse. That's worse, because that could be prevented. You're never going to be able to. It's just like these gun crimes. You'll never be able to prevent all of them. You'll never be able to prevent car accidents and drinking and driving. It's always going to happen. But you need to lock down that border. And if you keep illegals from coming in, then you're protecting your people. And the cops are already overloaded. So the fact that they need to worry about extra criminals coming in into these neighborhoods, and doing all sorts of stuff, working for cartels, kidnapping people. I mean, the stories I've heard out of Arizona and Texas, where they find people tied up in closets or randomly, trafficking women and all this stuff. And they're people that aren't even supposed to be in the country. And then they're doing this to American citizens. And that's just a disgrace. So I think we need to lock down that border, get the wall built. We need a full wall. We need a man every couple miles. We need better technology, and we need to protect our border. No, just the same as you protect your own home, or we should be protecting these schools. Our people are inside, and we should be defending them. I mean, if the government's not doing that, what's the point? If that's the basic, they should be there for the military, protect our borders, and that's almost where it stops. You know what I mean? That's the things that, other than that, they shouldn't be involved in much of our lives, and they're failing at that border miserably.
speaking of like protecting the border, what we just saw what happened in Buffalo. It was the tops, but in the school shootings. If you got into Congress, what type of legislation would you support to protect the children in those schools? And if the schools, would you make it mandatory? Would you leave it up to the school system to decide whether they would want to do it or not? I know that Texas had some issues with that. They had programs in place, but some of the school districts didn't put them in place. So,
Well, I think it's about holding them accountable. So if we told them that, look, we're going to cut funding from all this wasteful spending, and if a school who doesn't have a resource officer there, some sort of protection, because they can't afford it, that the government will pay for that to send it in, and then that community rejects it because they don't want it, then that's a tough, because imagine, would you want to send your kids to that school, number one? And then God forbid something does happen and you had an opportunity to have a fully funded full-time officer there working the entrance of that school, and you said no, and then something happens, you would never be able to live that down. So I think 99% of communities would accept that, and the funding's there. I mean, the funding, there's whole departments we could get rid of. I mean, starting with the Department of Education, look at their budget. They started in 1979 under Jimmy Carter, okay, which we're basically reliving those years now with Biden, but it's even worse, because I was just saying that to somebody, and I think I said it earlier, but at least in 1978, 79, when the inflation was bad and Carter was in, China was barely doing anything. They were just starting to get involved. We didn't have to worry about as much as we do. We weren't 30 trillion in debt, so it was pie in the sky stuff to say, let's start a federal Department of Education. Let's do this and that. But now I think the education system's gotten much worse since that started. I think we need to get rid of it, give it back fully to the states, and state and local, and that's giving the power back to the people. And with that kind of money that we're spending for the Department of Ed, we can say, we're going to help you. If you can't afford a resource officer, if you can't afford protection for your school, we'll give it to you. And I think they would take it. But if they deny it, we can also then tell them, well, you won't get any other federal funding either if you don't accept this,
kind of what
because
I did with the math.
Yep. Just to say, they should just keep doing that. That's how you push your agenda. That's what they do to us, when they want something. So I think it's no different. And the sad part is you're fighting to protect their children. So if they're pushing back on that, and that's what they told us, right? Protect the kids, make them all wear masks. The kids we got to keep them safe, but you won't protect their lives really from somebody who's there to do them harm. It's all virtue signaling, as they call it.
Yeah.
All right, are we pretty much done, or any other questions or anything like that?
I've asked pretty much all the questions that I have.
Cherie, you just talked all of our ears off, but that's fine.
Yes. Well, I just want to say I agree, with what Mario was saying. It's important to really look at these schools, and it is a different time now, and that's what they need to understand. I know I actually work in a school that we are lucky enough that our police agency does come in and do some resourcing and things like that, but there's that fine line with it as well. So, there's always going to be a good and a bad to everything. And I think it's important to remember that no matter what, our law enforcement officers are human, and they have bad days, and to really take a step back and look at the trauma that they have suffered, especially over these past couple of years, with just how they were treated and the losses that they've suffered, and knowing, how many of them have lost their lives as well, is very important. And, not always in the line of duty, just from the vicious attacks on them and their families. And people really need to take a step back and remember that no one goes into any profession to say, I'm going to do this because I just want to be a jerk, right? Or just want this power. right? When none of us go into that for that. I mean,
Well,
other
some
than
politicians do.
maybe politicians. I was gonna, you know, but for the most part, we all go in because we want to help. We want to make a difference. It's not like these careers we're getting rich off. So, you know, they did the same thing with the teachers in schools and, you know, called them horrific and everything else. And there's bad people in the schools. Yes, there definitely is. But the beauty of this country is we're supposed to have checks and balances. So it's time to bring back those checks and balances for real, and not so much all these backroom deals. And whoever screams the loudest gets the prize, even if there's only 10 of them. I mean, it's just wrong. So that, coupled with how can we help our small businesses? How can our small businesses step in and maybe connect with their local law enforcement, maybe connect with our schools? What kind of creative things can we do where we can kind of all come together and unite as, you know, looking at some different things? What kind of things could we brainstorm of? I know in our schools, you know, not every kid is going to go to college, and maybe kids just don't know what they want to do. How can our small businesses help maybe reach out and support the kids to learn different career paths? How can we connect that with our law enforcement? What kind of creative ideas can we come up with that are cost effective and prudent to the community, to the future, and helping everyone grow? I was
Yeah,
throwing those. Sorry.
Well, I think at the end of the day, we need to view police officers as just other people in our community, because look, you respect the uniform, you respect the badge, you respect the job, but at the end of the day, police officers are just people too. Like they're people that are doing a job, they're serving, but they're doing their job, and they're not different than us. You know, they're just doing a different job. So we can't be so standoffish and have kids feel scared when they see a cop. I think it was good when I was a kid, when we had like the DARE program and we knew these officers. So we'd see them out on the street and we'd crack a joke with them. And it wasn't, oh, it's this scary guy with a gun. It was like, no, that's Officer Bennett. Like, you know, that's how I know that guy. You know, he's just one of us. You know, you see him down at the firehouse or you see him at the bowling alley, but you know who he is and he's a good guy, and it's okay. And now you don't really have that like you did before. So I think if the police can get back into the communities and have more of these programs, instead of bringing kids to a library where you're going to have drag queens reading them story time or whatever the hell they're doing, why don't you bring the kids down to the police station and meet all the cops there, you know, or bring them all to the school at different days. One day a month, each officer comes into the school, introduce himself to the kids, says, if you ever need anything, if you see me and your bike's got a flat tire or you need a ride home, I'm going to be there, you know. And then by the end of the school year, every kid knows every cop, and they're not thinking some guy's watching them and out to get them, but they wave and they smile, and they know each other. And instead they're keeping us distant, and it really is, it's sad.
Like how
It's
it used
really
to
sad.
be. Like how it used to
Yeah.
be when I was young. It was like, yeah, it was like even like you were always taught, you know, you get in trouble, go to law enforcement, go to the if you
Right.
see a fireman or something like that. Now it's like totally everything's upside down. It's insane.
It is.
I like to tell
We
people
got to take our country back.
the insanity is real. And you know something, Mario?
Mhm.
I like the fact that you're not afraid to talk about issues. You know, and I like that.
No.
I appreciate that about people that are running. They're not afraid to throw out the taboo things that you're not supposed to talk about. But you want to know something? People want to hear it. People want to know.
And those are
People-
the things we're really supposed to talk about.
yes.
Those are the things
exactly.
it's like my grandfather always says that so many people here have meetings and then they say, let's adjourn it till next month and next month. You know, you serve on a board or something and all you do is have meetings and nobody ever says, well, why don't we get out and do the stuff we're talking about? It's the same with these politicians. They talk about everything except the things they're supposed to. You just want to talk about all this stupid stuff, but everybody's scared to say the stuff that really matters. And if you know you're right and you're saying the right things and you got good morals and you got good values and you can hold your head high, you go to sleep at night and get up in the morning and feel good about it, then don't be timid. I always say that if you're standing on a good foundation on solid ground, you don't got to be flip-flopping and wishy-washy. You can stand firm and say the truth. And if people agree with you, they're going to support you, they're going to elect you. they're gonna believe in you. But if they don't, then they're not, and you shouldn't represent them. But if you got to hide what you really believe in to get a vote, then you got no business being out there, and I'm not gonna do that.
Just
Very, yeah.
speak your mind.
Well said. Well said. That's exactly how people feel.
Yes, I think we're going to
Yep.
wrap it up. It's been about an hour.
Yep.
Mario, how can people reach you or help with your campaign, et
Yeah,
cetera?
so I got this thing up. Let me plug Vistaprint here. But MarioForCongress.com is the website. I'm on Facebook at Mario Fratto for Congress, and I'm on Twitter at Mario Fratto. I'm on Truth at Mario Fratto. Wherever you guys go, type in Mario Fratto and you'll find me.
Just everywhere, Mario Fratto.
Yeah, that's all you need.
And
There's
Mario
not a lot of
Fratto
us.
will be at June 5th, and you'll be at
Yes.
June 5th. You will be
June 5th,
at
I
the
will
right.
be there.
Yes.
I will be
So
there.
one of the
That's
things
what
I
we-
always one of the things I always like to add for people that are intimidated by any candidates, by any politicians is, I like to add your politicians, your candidates, they should all be approachable and want to talk to you. And I want to say, Mario, you are one of those people. So I really want people to know that, that you're approachable if they have questions that they just want to talk to you about, to get to know you. I really want to encourage them to go and seek you out at this ride and rally and talk to you, because it's important. And every politician should be approachable. Every candidate should be approachable, because after all, they are representing us.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, please do that. Thank you. I appreciate those words. And if anybody sees me anywhere, you can talk to me.
All right. Sounds good. I think we're going to wrap it up. Good talking to you, Mario. And
Thanks
keep in
for
touch.
having me, Charles.
Keep in
Roberta,
touch.
Cherie. I'll
Keep
see
in
you
touch.
soon.
All right. Take care.
Sorry about the chaos.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.